I try to relate the Buddha's message to our life. To our life as ordinary, imperfect beings, right? So, in the past week, for instance, we are studying the Satipatṭhāna Sutta. And it's a discourse on mindfulness, one of the most important discourses. And I have tried to show you at each and every possible point that there are so many things from which we can get inspiration, so many things which we can learn to apply immediately to be a bit more mindful, to be more aware, and to understand, for instance, that Buddhism is not just for the so-called knowledge, not for the acquisition of knowledge per se, but to try to develop the insight within you, and also the fact that it's insight that transforms you. And last night, for instance, we looked at we have come to the aspect of mindfulness of Dhamma. We have examined mindfulness of the body, that's Kaya, the mindfulness on Vedana, that is sensations or feelings, and then mindfulness on Chitta, that is the thought of the mind itself. And last night we examined the Buddha's teaching on mindfulness on the Dhamma. We still have not finished. We are almost coming to the end of the sutta. And we learn so many things. And all these things, if we are sincere, if we are mindful, we can apply to in our own way to our life. Coming back then to what we learned, some of the main points. We can't spend another 2-3 hours talking about it here. This, if you call it a sermon, is meant to be a sermon that is brief, to the point, so we can't repeat all the details. First, we noticed that when you go through this process of examining the fourfold application of mindfulness. By the way, we emphasize the meaning of application and not foundation, in the sense of making mindfulness abide on the object of the mindfulness practice. So that aspect of the dynamic abiding, we believe is the meaning of Satipatṭhāna. So I was saying that when you look at this whole description starting from the body up to starting from Kaya up to Dhamma, up to Dhammas, we see that for each dimension, for each aspect, the sutta says, finally the goal is to be totally independent, not relying on anything, and not grasping anything in the world. And that means that the goal of each practice, whether it's mindfulness of the body, whether it's mindfulness of feeling and so on, is really nothing less than complete, perfect detachment or perfect enlightenment. So that spells out the purpose, the goal of this practice. And certainly, to say the least, it is much more than a method for physiological benefits. Although it does produce physiological benefits, but it goes far, far beyond that. So we have to keep bearing in mind, we read the same sentences for each of the four application of mindfulness. Coming to the mindfulness of Dhamma, what should Dhamma mean? That's an interesting point. you see. As we understand, one common interpretation in the traditional country is that Dhamma here means the doctrines of the Buddha. You know, like you said, Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami. That Dhamma means the doctrine. And indeed, when you look at the description in the sutta, when you come to this part of mindfulness of Dhamma, we are guided to contemplate on, for instance, the 5 nivarana, the five hindrances, the 7 factors of enlightenment, the sambhujjhanga, the four noble truths and so on. These are all fundamental doctrines, fundamental doctrinal categories of Buddha teaching. So perhaps because of this, that the impression for many traditional Buddhists is that the Dhamma anupassana, that is to say contemplation of Dhamma, means contemplation on the doctrines of the Buddha. But I think that this kind of interpretation is very narrow, too rigid, and it doesn't seem to convey the significance of the contemplation of the Dhamma. And really Dhamma should mean ultimately all phenomena. But particularly phenomena as experienced in the form of mental objects. So Dhamma has that sense of mental object because a meditator is contemplating on, after his mind, the body, feelings, and then his mind, and then is the mind object. It's a natural sequence. And after examining, after being mindful, I would say, of his mind mental states, then he extends it to be mindful of the objects of the mind, what the mind thinks of. Now, the mind can think of everything, can think of all things, all phenomena, in fact including Nibbana, including the conditioned and the unconditioned. All these come under mental objects. So when one gains an insight that all, for instance, Dhammas are without substantiality, anatta, surely it doesn't mean literally that one sees everything outside, is everything, from childhood observing up to that, and then seeing everything, and then can conclude, statistically, as it were, that all things have been seen by me as being non-substantial. That would be impossible. So surely it means an insight within your mind. Your insight that you in your vision, in your final vision, you have vision of all phenomena as being non-substantial, anatta. So it's through a process, in other words, of inner contemplation, arriving at the insight that one's come to realize anatta. Yeah. So if we look at it from this perspective, then we can say that Dhamma anupassana here, the final dimension of the application of mindfulness, is on mental objects, which also means on all phenomena, because all phenomena are perceived by the mind, can be envisioned by the mind. And if we understand this way, it also lines up with the other traditions of Buddhism. So last night another point we made is that when you look at the Northern tradition, all the texts tell us that Dhammanupassana means contemplation of all phenomena. In fact, the general teaching in the northern tradition is that for Dhamma, for Kaya, for the first application of mindfulness, the key insight is that the Kaya, the body, is impure. 就叫做中文叫做咩？觀身不淨。My Cantonese pronunciation is not so good. I might miss a little bit. 不淨。淨不淨。Okay, now the second one is contemplation on your feelings, your sensation as unsatisfactory, or you might say suffering. Chinese is 觀受是苦 but you know that term dukkha should not be understood to mean just suffering. It includes even happiness, includes everything, other experiences in space-times, but they are ultimately unsatisfactory. That is a much better rendering of dukkha, unsatisfactoriness. So through the contemplation of your Vedana, your feeling, you come to gain the insight. Now, as I say, you know, this application of mindfulness practice, the ultimate purpose is not just to get, not just to achieve mindfulness per se, no. It's to achieve insight. That's why in all the description you see, I have mentioned that point last week, that proper awareness and proper mindfulness come together. Kinh文就係正知正念啦，唔淨係正知，唔係淨係正念，通過正念得到正知，兩個係分唔開嘅。So this point has to be remembered. When you apply mindfulness practice, the purpose is to gain insight, is to gain wisdom, which you can't get from coming to a class or reading from the books. If you stop there, of course. You have to meditate. You have to go through a process of transformation within you to arrive at insight. That's why meditation is so important. That's why practice is so important. So, coming back to the second one, it is mindfulness of the feeling as being unsatisfactory. There certainly can be feelings of happiness, very, very much. We saw, last night I emphasized also, in the Buddha's teaching, the feeling of happiness, feeling of pleasure, feeling of joy is very important for us. In fact, we can't sustain our life existence if we don't have happiness and joy. But what is important is the mindfulness, is the awareness, is the insight that all this happiness, as important as they are, or important as they are impermanent. And when you compare to the final ultimate happiness, that is Nibbana, all this become unsatisfactory. Hence they are dukkha. Last week we also reminded ourselves that even dukkha is understood in different ways. And we have dukkha as dukkha per se, is dukkha. We have dukkha because of the fact of anicca, because unsatisfactory, because even though you are happiness, even though you are rich, comfortable, but this richness, happiness cannot stay forever, and that itself finally is unsatisfactory. And then we have finally dukkha by virtue of the fact that within the conditioned experiential frameworks. That is, that we are all conditioned, sankata. And whatever happiness, whatever success, whatever positive things that we achieve, ultimately, by the very fact that these are achievement within space-time, achievement as sankhara, as the conditioning factors, are ultimately unsatisfactory. So this is the meaning when we come to understand the point that through contemplation on feelings, we gain insight. All our experiences as being ultimately unsatisfactory. 呢個就係觀受是苦. And then the week before last, when we examined the dimension or the aspect of mindfulness on chitta, on thought or mind, the point that is made in the northern tradition is that the purpose is to gain insight into the fact that thought is impermanent. They can change, they change, or it changes all the time. So when you contemplate thought, the main insight to be gained is impermanence. And how about Dhamma now? According to the Northern tradition, the ultimate insight to be gained is the fact that all Dhammas are without a self, anatta. So you have this, therefore, these four aspects, right? What is it? One, impurity. Then second one, unsatisfactoriness. Third one, impermanence. Fourth one, no selfness. This doctrine came to be somewhat systematized in the Northern tradition, in the Abhidhamma and in the general commentary tradition, you might say, that the fourfold application of mindfulness is a method to counteract the fourfold upside downness, fourfold topsy-turviness, 就係四種顛倒啦。What are these for? We suffer here, we get attached here, we cannot get out of samsara, because the way of operation, the way our mind is conditioned, is that we see things that are impure as pure. We are attracted to beautiful things, lovable things, and we suffer. But this is very concrete human experience of you and me, everybody, right? So it's very, very concrete. We start from the body because it is concrete, it's real. And the second topsy-turviness is that when we experience happiness and joy, we assume that they are, what is it? They are true happiness, right? In fact, they are unsatisfactory. So what are unsatisfactory? We assume that they are true happiness. So through the contemplation, through the practice of mindfulness on feelings, we realize that all this feeling represents all sensory experiences also, are in fact unsatisfactory. So it's a very big kind of striking a message, if you like. We will be very struck when we come to realize even a shock. If we can come to a shock, that is good for us. We have to be shocked every now and then. That in fact all these experiences we have thought of as being pleasurable, happy. Not that they are not there, not that they are to be negated, but if we are attached, if we cling to them as being true happiness, ultimate happiness, as being ultimately satisfactory, we get into the trap. So this is second observance. Thirdly, the third topsy-turviness is that we experience things that are impermanent, assuming that they are permanent. In fact, all things are impermanent. So we have, even particularly, for instance, ourselves within us, and everything within us, everything pertaining to us, we assume that they are permanent. We hope for permanence, and that's a wrong starting point. We get into trouble. So, perceiving the impermanent as permanent is one important fundamental topsy-turviness. And finally, perceiving what are without substantiality, without a so-called self or soul, which is in fact, if you like, the nature of existence. All existence are without self and soul. We perceive them as if they have a permanent, eternal, non-changing soul. Particularly, once again, ourselves. That's why we come back to rebirth. That's why we revolve in samsara. So these are the four topsy-turviness, upside downness. The application of mindfulness is, according to this system, meant to be a method to counteract exactly these four. And it says that's why there are only four form application, no less, no more, because Buddhism teaches these four fundamental upside downness. So when we come to this final one on Dhamma, the insight is, to begin, is that all phenomena are without a self. So you see, when we can really go through like this, in fact, even if you succeed in one, we will succeed in all. If we truly see everything as, for instance, as being impermanent, you see, we will naturally come to the insight that everything is without substantiality, and so on. But if we even as an ordinary practitioner, to varying degrees, at varying stages of development, we go through this continuously practicing, even in imperfect ways, we keep on being impacted by all this insight, flashes of insight, glimpses of insight into our four fundamental upside downness. So in that process, we become transformed. So this is, once again, not a matter of just knowing as knowledge, but getting these glimpses, I might put it that way, in meditation, that make all these teachings truly applications, truly effective, truly meaningful, truly useful. So that's why they have to be taught as meditation method, has to be emphasized.